Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Show. This is a show where we get under the hat of all things franchising. And it's a live show. Well, it's live if it's the 16th of June at around 5:15 in the UK, 12:15 in bits of America, and all sorts of other times. But if you are here live, then please get involved, join our conversations, because you are the producers. You're the directors of this show, and our conversations can go the way you wish them to go. So what do we do each week on the Franchise Show? Every week we take a new topic and a lovely guest. And today, no exception to that, we have a fantastic guest for you. But before we introduce him to you, let's tell you what we're going to talk about today. So today, we are going to be talking about franchising in Nigeria. And it's a fascinating region, lots of opportunities, lots of challenges. And we're really going to get to the bottom of what those opportunities and challenges are with our lovely guest, Satender Singh. Welcome to the Franchise Show, Satender.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Harvey. It's a pleasure to be there on the show and conversations like we always do.
Perfect. Well, amazing to have you with us. And look, before we get into the topic, perhaps you could give us a little introduction to yourself, to how you've got into the world of franchising, to what you currently do at the moment with a brand in Nigeria. But I'm making it all mysterious, not name dropping yet, but looking forward to hearing it.
So, Harvey, thanks a lot. So I have around 27 years of experience working across India with the hotels. Started working with KFC. Years, launched the first equity store in the country. When I left them, we were like 450 odd stores in India at that time. Worked with the owners for India and Bangladesh. It was in the highest number of in the first week, first month reopening for those. It was a great experience, great learning for me as well. Then I came back to India for a short while here. And I had the opportunity to move to Nigeria again with KFC. I came.
Satender, you seem to be cutting out a little bit from my perspective.
Okay.
Could you try this when you're talking? Could you try just turning your camera off just for a moment, only your camera, and just to see if we can then hear you, and then turn it back on once you've finished speaking? That would be fantastic.
Okay, is this better now?
I can certainly hear you. I mean, I got a little bit of that introduction. A lot of people have actually just joined us because there is a slight delay. So what we're going to do, we're going to redo that introduction if that's okay. And then once you finish that introduction, switch your camera back on and we can see your lovely face. Yeah, so if you can do the introduction with the camera off, just so that we can make sure that we can hear you, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here we go. So Harvey, I started with the. I have 27 years of experience. Started off with the hotels way back in '99. Worked with the hotels for 5-6 years. Grew up the ladder. Then KFC was opening in that time their own equity stores in 2005. I had an opportunity to join them as the first restaurant manager for them for their equity business. Opened up the first equity store, the second, which became the highest volume store in the country and defined the progress what KFC has made in India. By the time I finished, a decade passed just like that. And then I moved over to join Domino's. Worked with them in India for 2 years, handling around 80 stores, 30 odd cities. Then Bangladesh did not have Domino's. I got a brilliant opportunity to move from pure operations into a general manager role, where looked launched the entire brand and made the world record in terms of highest numbers of orders in first week and first month of opening. So the launch was hugely successful at Dhaka.
Satender, you are still cutting out. What we're going to ask you to do, let me bring you back onto the screen. Turn your camera back on for a moment. What I think we're going to need you to do, and we're going to take if you put your camera back on just for a moment, what we're going to do, if you can log out, and I'm going to carry on talking to our audience for a little bit, log out, clear the cache on your computer and your history, open a brand new browser, and then follow that link on LinkedIn in 2 or 3 minutes, and I will be here and we'll reintroduce you back onto the show.
Very well, very well. Noted.
I look forward to seeing you in a few moments' time.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Well, look, what we are going to be doing is Satender we want to be able to hear him, because it's absolutely all about Satender. It's all about franchising in Nigeria. And it's not a subject that I'm going to be able to talk about for very long. So Satender is going to re-log on and hopefully we can hear him. But it was very interesting to hear him say 27 years of experience, and he is the CEO of KFC in Nigeria. There's around 40 stores that they have, and they're operating as a master franchise in Nigeria. And I know that he is going to be talking to us a lot about some of those challenges that he's faced while he's been growing a huge brand in this region. But before we get to that and listen to the fantastic Satender, let's welcome a few people who have joined us live already today. We've got the lovely Tim Morris with us. Great to have you with us, Tim. Tim is one of our lovely experts here in the UK. He helps high-performing franchisees. He's also part of the fantastic Bridge with Nicky Senior, and that's really helping a lot of our franchisees in the UK with their support. He's put, hi Harvey and Satender, good to be here. Having been involved in franchising in Nigeria, this is a really interesting conversation for me. Well, it'd be great to hear your thoughts, Tim. I know that you spent quite a bit of time in different parts of Africa. So it'd be great to hear your thoughts and your experiences of franchising in Nigeria. And we'll certainly get Satender to respond to that when he's back. We've got the fantastic Simon Wise with us. Simon is, of course, one of our fantastic franchise recruiters here in the UK. And Simon is a big supporter of the show. He's been a guest several times, and I've done lots of shows with Simon. And he's put, hello, franchise friends. So it's always good to have you with us, Simon. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on franchising in Nigeria. You can hear me padding these questions out a little bit more until our guest gets back. So please put a few more questions in so that I can continue to read these until Satender comes back. We've got the lovely Johnny Joseph with us. And Johnny is a franchisee royalty auditor. And look, he's put it there in his comment, which always helps me out. So I know what the lovely Johnny does. And Johnny was a previous guest where we were talking about auditing. Satender is back. Look at that. Let's see if we can see him. We can see him. Can we hear him? Hi, Satender.
Is it better, Harvey?
Certainly sounds good at the moment. So let's go for it. I'm going to you would have witnessed me padding out just then because I don't know anything about franchising in Nigeria. So I was just welcoming a few people here. So we're going to continue to do that just so that you can see what's happening here. We've got Tim Morris with us. He's put, hi, Harvey and Satender. Good to be here. Having been involved in franchising in Nigeria, this is a really interesting conversation for me. So great to hear your thoughts, Tim. Let us know your experiences. Simon Wise is here. Simon is a franchise recruiter, helps us get all our lovely franchise people here in the UK. And he's put, hello, franchise friends. So we've got Johnny Joseph here. He's put hello from a very interested African in a sunny, warm, and World Cup crazy Los Angeles, worldwide headquarters of my franchisee royalty audit services. So Johnny is from South Africa originally, and he now lives in the lovely Los Angeles. He's a franchisee royalty auditor. We've got a question coming up from Simon. Let's just welcome Ravi to the show. He's put, wow, I like that. I might use that every time Satender says something amazing. I can put that comment up by Ravi. You can wow everything. Love it. Thanks for being with us, Ravi. Looking forward to hearing.
Everyone. Yeah,
exactly. Simon has come back with great guests. Thank you very much, Simon. And we have got a question coming in from Simon as well. So look, before we get into Simon's question, and we're definitely going to bring that up, you've given us a lovely introduction. KFC CEO, master franchise, 27 years experience, 40 sites there in Nigeria. Let us know what the sort of franchising landscape looks like in Nigeria. You know, are there lots of franchise brands? Is it a growing industry? What's it like there?
so Nigeria is a country of aspiration, if I may say so. Yeah, it's it's a country with 242 million people, largest in Africa, sixth largest in the world. Yeah. Having said so, the median age of the country is 18.3. So it's a fairly young country.
Okay.
The percentage of people above 60 is only 3%. So the potential of this country to go much higher in terms of what the consumption of this economy in future is going to be. It's beautiful. If we look at a couple of local brands also here, they have been here. They started up quite early, and they have done fantastic well. And they have close to around 200 odd outlets. Chicken Republic is one of them. We look at Kilimanjaro. They have done beautifully well. They've been able to address the people needs, and they have close to around 80 odd stores in the country. So both homegrown brands which are there, and I think. A couple of international brands who have come in QSR industry is apart from KFC is also Domino's Pizza. Then we have got Burger King, who has recently entered the market. We have got Dodo Pizza. For coffee and donuts, we have got Krispy Kreme. We have Pizza Hut as well, mostly in the north. So these are pure QSR, which are there existing in the country. The opportunity exists in the country, but the infrastructure is where the challenge is. And I'm sure the current government is working on fixing that infrastructure. Once that gets improved, we will see that the speed of opening the restaurants by the franchisors and by all the franchisees would increase. So it's a beautiful, but it's a different ball game. As we were discussing the other time, what works in the rest of the world may not work in the rest of in Africa or in Nigeria, I must say.
Absolutely. I mean, look, fascinating. Great to see a couple of things. Great to see some brands that are emerging from Nigeria, growing in Nigeria, and You know, you mentioned Chicken Republic, and we're going to get to Thierry's comment in a minute. But also good to see some of those other brands starting to thrive within the country. And I loved what you said there, a country of aspirations, you know, and I love that. I think that that's a beautiful sense of where you're at as a country. I really love that. And I think it's going to be very interesting to get into these, and we're definitely going to get into the infrastructure, because when we look at a UK business, a QSR business in particular, you know, we look at cost of goods, we look at staffing costs. And I know when we spoke before that staffing cost isn't the next one down on that list. It's to do with interest, it's to do with power. We're going to definitely get into that. Before we do that, let's get up a few more comments from our lovely community. Johnny Joseph have put spot on, Harvey. Well, I like that. And again, that's a great, if I say something that impresses myself, I can put that up. But no, thank you very much, Johnny. I'm glad that I got what you do right this week. Oh, it's a good question from Simon. We're going to bring that up. So we got two questions, one from Simon, one from Thierry. Let's look at Thierry's first. Thierry is, first of all, welcome, Thierry, to the Franchise Show, regular to the show. Great contributor, a fantastic resource in QSR, and he's worked on a project with the Chicken Republic team to bring a French brand into the market. Satender, are you still there? Satender has.
Yes, I'm there.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
worry. Yeah, I just had a phone call coming and I was silencing the phone.
That's okay.
To be honest.
You know what? I thought it might have been an infrastructure issue. It's okay.
No,
It's
not
okay.
yet.
We're all good.
Not
We're all
yet.
good. So let me repeat this one. Thierry's worked on a project with the Chicken Republic team to bring a French brand into that market. You mentioned Chicken
Fantastic.
Republic, didn't you? What's your sort of take on that brand and the challenges there?
So I think I'm not sure whether they were able to bring the French brand in the market or not, but if I look at Chicken Republic as a brand, they have done beautifully well. They have adapted, they have started, and they have been able to scale up to the numbers which I think international brands have yet to catch up on. You know, they've done well for a homegrown brand to reach out to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we're definitely going to get into that. We're going to get into what franchising brands that have been born in Nigeria and are looking to expand out. I think that's a great conversation topic to have. And then what a brand that's looking to expand into Nigeria should really be thinking about. But before we get to those two, as I say, this show is about a community. It's about the franchising community. So I love to bring in questions from the audience and let that drive the direction of our conversation.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I'm going to pop this one up from Simon, because I think this is going to be a really interesting one to get that perspective early on in this conversation. So Simon's put, what is the franchising regulatory framework in Nigeria? Do you have specific franchise regulation in Nigeria, or is it more self-regulated? What does it look like, the legal framework in Nigeria?
So if you look at, there is, yes, of course, you need to form a company there before you launch. So there are a lot of regulatory compliances which are required to be filled before you start any business in any of the countries. And similar is the stuff in Nigeria as well. And there are also even for royalties, payments, etc. There are regulations which are in place, and of course permits etc needs to be taken prior, much ahead of this once you are getting into it. Once
So
you get connected.
sure.
Yeah.
So there's no real specific franchise regulation and a regulatory body that's telling you must have a franchise disclosure document, you must have a franchise agreement. It's an environment where you're relying on more common law practices that are involved, more business.
Right, right.
Is that
If
correct?
you go through it, they will ask you for all these documents, and they may ask you for much more documents when it comes to the regulatory compliance in the country.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, but yes, regulatory compliance is definitely there on every side. So only a part of this. I think there are a lot of compliances on the other side, which are around food, labor. Every restaurant you have got a lot of licenses, etc., which needs to be taken, and the list is huge, really. So I think, but I think it's once you have done the first one, I think the first one is always the difficult one. Once the first one comes through, we get to see that things ease out, because you understand how things work in the country and what is the right process. Most of the things are not now getting online as well, so that's making things much easier, and supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned online there, and we're living in a world that's so much more connected now. And it's easier for people to understand what steps they need to take when they are looking at franchising in another region. We're definitely going to look at that. We're going to look at these two perspectives in a minute, but let me just have a look at a few other comments. So we've got Johnny comes out with just to encourage. Well, I'll take all the encouragement I can get, Johnny. Thierry's come back with that was back in 2014, but the master franchise deal was never signed. Oh, it was fantastic. And look, it's just great to share your experiences of the region, because the story of what happened in the past, what's happening now, what's going to happen in the future is all part of this bigger picture. It was lovely to hear Satender talk about the general age of the population is very young, right? And what that's going to mean is that you've got a lot of people that are aspiring. And I'm going back to that word, but you've got a lot of people that are aspiring to do great things. And therefore, you're going to have a big community or a big country of people that are all looking to do that. So exciting times. And look, I want to test something because this is a new feature, right? There you go. Look, that is actually a comment by me. But hopefully, if you are on LinkedIn, you may well be able to see that comment, and it should filter through to LinkedIn. It's a new feature that's been added today. So please, if you are listening today live, do get involved, because if you pop up a question now and you're interested in franchising in Nigeria, we're going to talk about it as a community. Okay, so when I start off this show, I have that written down, nothing at all. Okay, and at the end, and I've already started to write down lots of different things, because even for me, these conversations are really fascinating, full of learnings. We're sharing these things together to learn together. So look, let's talk about these two things that we said that we're going to do. So I think let's talk first of all about a brand that's outside of Nigeria. Let's say it's a UK brand or a US brand, and they're thinking about trying to launch their brand in Nigeria, right? What would you say the steps they should take to do that? What are some key elements to launching a brand in Nigeria and making a success of it?
I think first and foremost is to find a right partner in the market. So I think there is enough scouting which needs to happen, which needs to happen before you sign up with one of the partners. And I'm sure every brand, most of the brands would have their guidelines to identifying a local partner. The second biggest part is doing your own research. I think this is where a couple of brands, when they are entering a new country, not specifically Nigeria, but any other country, they don't do. And they see it as an extension or very similar trend to the other country where they're present at, and try to do something similar. I think every country has got their own nuances, their own habits, their own stuff which is there. And Harvey, we were talking about the other day about one simple experience when I went to the hotel and I asked for my coffee and I said, "Get me the coffee now." It came in in like 10-15 minutes.
Mm.
And when I said why the coffee was delayed, he said, you asked for it now. If you want something in here right now, you got to say, bring it to me now, now, now. So that means,
Okay.
and nobody outside Nigeria would know this.
I'm going to stop you there because this is really interesting, okay? Because I think especially these cultural nuances are so important, right? And that's a fairly comical example of a cultural nuance. But in the UK, if you would say to a waiter, bring me a coffee now, it would come across as rude, actually, in the UK, right? Which you'd say, oh, would it be okay if I could have a coffee, or when you're free?
Yes,
But
absolutely.
but that's the really interesting thing about it, okay? Because it absolutely isn't rude. When you're talking about in your perspective there, culturally, bring me a coffee now, right? They know you want a coffee urgently, but they don't think it's
Right.
rude. So it's really interesting.
And even if we see, we say, okay, please bring me a coffee now. Okay, when you say now, that makes the tone ready that okay, this guy is in a hurry. He needs the coffee now. So that's where it is. Otherwise, it takes ages as well at times. It'll take 10-15 minutes for them to get you coffee. Okay, you are not in a hurry. You want to enjoy the pleasant evening or afternoon or a morning. It was very common, and I got to know it about almost after 3 days, because every day I used to order coffee and it'll come after 10-15 minutes. I didn't realize this was the problem.
I think it's so interesting. We've stumbled upon a little story here, right? But it's a story of nuance. It's a story of such importance when you go to another country. When we were talking about what steps you should take, and you said find the right partner, right? The right potential person to be a master franchise or an area developer. When you talk about a region like India as an example, right? That it's so huge. Right, Africa's a bit different because it's divided up into lots of countries that cover that massive continent. But India is still very huge. You almost have to have an area developer or a master franchise for different regions within that country. But you're right, and if you found the right partner as well, right, someone who knows those cultural nuances, someone who knows that now means I'd like something quite urgently, please. Right?
Absolutely.
So important, really, really interesting. We've got a few comments. It's great to start to talk about this. We're now at the moment talking about franchising in Nigeria. We're talking about if you've got a brand and you're looking to go to Nigeria. Fascinating conversation, and Satender is giving us some fantastic insights into that. We've got a couple of comments coming in from Simon and from Johnny. We've got a very long comment from Ravi, but I'd like to have a look at it. I'm going to start to read it, and maybe we can pick out a few bits in this. I'm going to put you at the top of the screen, and I'll be down there. Okay. Your beautiful face otherwise. So Ravi has put, Nigeria has one of the youngest and fastest growing populations in the world, which appears to create a compelling opportunity for consumer faced franchise businesses targeting entry level and young consumers. From your experience, which franchise concepts or brands are best positioned to serve this demographic? That's a great question. Let me finish reading it because we're going to come back to that exact question. Are there any successful examples in Nigeria or other emerging markets that play a role similar to Dunkin' in the West, offering affordable, accessible, aspirational products for young consumers? And we've got a secondary question here from Ravi, but let's deal with this first one. So, a couple of points here, and great question, Ravi. Thanks so much for getting involved. Love all of this. But the first one I want to get to is, what sort of brands do you think are going to be interesting to, with your experience with KFC, you've got a young population. What do you think the consuming population are going to want from a franchise brand appearing in Nigeria?
The majority of the population is still pretty young, and they are very experimental, right? So any brand which comes in and is able to offer a lot of value for money, I think that's where the customer would go. One is the
Mm,
experience, and when I say value, is not necessarily the cheap price. The less price is not the value. It's the 360 experience what the customer gets when they come to a brand, whether it is the hospitality which is displayed, the ambience they are in, the kind of food which is served, the price what they pay for that experience. So if you are there able to give a solid value for money, the customer is going to come to you again and again,
mm.
which is there. Having said so, the demography of the country at this point, when we look at it, I think 50 to 60% of the population is still under the poverty line.
Mm, yeah,
So the affordability for international brands becomes the challenge there, because international brands comes with their own set of quality regulations and food safety guidelines, which becomes very difficult for like a smaller brand would be easily be able to do something what they want to do for a for
yeah. I
a
guess
for
because
an
they can.
international brand.
Mm,
Yeah, so localizing for that example, for us we need to have GFSI certified plans to be able to get it. So all the international brands would go for more food safety and traceability of the products to be able to get to be able to serve to our customers, so that to ensure that there is enough food safety there in our brands. But
mm.
if you look at, but it's at the same time, some local players may play around and find some. I'm not saying, but they may find some creative options where they can have a product at a much better value than us. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. I mean, you know, and I think that value for money, and you said there sort of 50% of the population is below that poverty line, and that's awful. And hopefully that will improve, and I'm sure it is improving. But let's take something like KFC. And blimey, last time I ordered a KFC, it was about £60, right, in UK money, I think, for a family of
Okay.
four. How do you have to position? Let's say you're a QSR, and let's say you're, I don't know, you're producing a burger and chips, right? I'm trying to think of something that's easy for everyone to picture. How much is someone paying for a meal? The type of people that are going to be able to afford to go out and dine, what's that sort of end price? Where do you sort of sit with a
Uh,
rough
See,
calculation?
for example, I think a person would spend in a international brand close to around somewhere about for a meal for two would be something like around about $8 to $10 on an average.
Okay, okay,
Okay, okay.
okay.
Brands like KFC would have a entry price point which would be a less than $1. So there is a meal at 14.99 which is just about $1.
Okay, so you've got that entry point, $1. Someone can have some food for $1, which is what, about 80 pence, right?
Right.
I think this is really interesting because, again, you know, I always talk to brands about making P&Ls work, making those things work. And look, we're going to get into this in a minute because, and Simon's come up with a question that I want to ask as well. And let's see if I can get to that. In fact, there we go. Let's bring this one up actually, because I think it's a good time to bring this up. Simon's put, what is the labour market like in Nigeria for QSR staff, etc. I wanted to bring this one up because we just started to talk about the price of an end product. We've spoken a little bit about infrastructure, right? So let's talk. If you could talk a little bit about the labour market, is it easy to get people to work in a KFC? Is that something people want to do? Talk us a little bit about that labour market in Nigeria.
So, Harvey, if we look at the developed markets like US, UK, Europe, yeah, even India, the second largest cost on the P&L after the food cost is actually the labor.
Mm,
In Nigeria, interestingly, the second is not the labor;
okay.
it's the power.
Power, fuel, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
And and the minimum wages in the country are still, if we look at just a moment, is around about 70 odd thousands naira, which is the local currency. But let me quickly convert that into dollars. That's like a $50 wage for a month.
For a month? Okay.
For a month. For a month. Right? So, but the bigger brands would be paying more because it comes with a certification, etc. You want lesser attrition, etc. So I've just given you a perspective. So the labor is not, which is the second most worrisome thing. And if there is a question is also about the quality of people, etc. I think the most of the brands, we are able to find people. It's tough to find, but yes, we are able to find the right people for the right stores. Most of the
When you say it's tough to find, is it tough to find the right caliber of person, or the people with the right experience, or is it tough to find people who want to work in a KFC?
See, I would not select this only for KFC. And
Sure.
Harvey,
Only use that brand because you
yeah,
know.
yeah. So I look at the market and I go to the QSR and I see everybody is in the expansion mode, right? So everybody wants to grow their brand in the country, and you will have to hire and find a mechanism to hire, train, and develop those people to bring them up to the level of the expectations what you want them to deliver on.
Mm.
So that is a cycle which is there. So you find the people, train them, put them across, and by the time they are into position, that takes time. So you may so in markets like India, etc., you may have ready-made profiles which are almost there. Since this market has just started growing, I think we still have got a lot journey to do in
Mm.
terms of developing the talent within the country.
I
The
think
talent is easy to find,
yeah,
and and training is where it takes time for us to train them.
that's it. You've got to do that training. We've got loads of questions. This is clearly a region that really, really fascinates. It's really resonating. I can feel it. It's resonating with our community. It's interesting to know what's happening there, because for me, it's exciting opportunity. But look, let's make sure we get all of these questions in. We've got about another 10 minutes or so of this first part of today's show. So let's have a look at another few comments. Some of these are a bit quicker so we can get through these. Johnny's put, just now in Africa usually means sometime later today. Again, fascinating stuff. I was speaking with somebody from Malaysia, and in Malaysia, if you make an appointment with someone, it's quite normal for them to turn up early or late, and that timekeeping is very different. So the language that describes this is so important. And Satender, I'm going to go back to you saying find the right partner. Somebody like yourself who really understands a region and understands cultural nuances, language, all of these things is so important. Fantastic comment there, Johnny. We've got a LinkedIn user. Let me know who you are. Actually, just now means a little while ago. There you go. Look, again,
See,
such
within
nuance.
the content,
Yeah,
within the continent.
yeah, exactly. Being a South African myself. Uh, let's have a look, or in a little while, depending on the contents of the question. Look, again, this is a really interesting one, because look, what we have picked out as a community at the moment is nuance, right? Little nuances of language that are so important as you grow and as you make a decision to enter a country. What we're going to do the last 5 minutes, in about a minute or so, we're going to look at Nigerian brands looking to exit Nigeria and expand out into other regions, and get Satinder's thoughts on that. But before we do that, let's go to 3 more comments from our fantastic audience. Simon's put, Harvey, you need to limit yourself to just one bargain bucket. Yeah, it wasn't just for me, Simon. Okay. Hungry family. Sorry. Yes. We've got Ravi, who's come back with. So, does price sensitivity make costs of goods a bit challenging compared to the established markets? I'm going to come back to that one. I like that one. And hopefully we'll get a quick overview from Satender on that. We've got the lovely Lisa Feverick with us. Lisa, always great to have you with us on the show. Lisa helps women who are going through the menopause with dietary advice. So please check that out. Let's quickly go back to this one. Look, we've got so much that we could talk about. I think we could talk for about 3 hours, but we've got 50 minutes. So let's have a look at this. We started to talk about that P&L, and you were saying that power is one of the challenges. We're going to talk a little bit about that power element first, because I think it's really important. Then we'll move on to this. So tell us about the power in Nigeria. My laptop just started running out of power. So I picked up the lead, I plugged it. We take that for granted, that you've just got power that comes out of a thing in the wall. What's it like in Nigeria in terms of powering a KFC or another restaurant? How can you power that?
So, Harvey, as I said, that infrastructure in this country, I would say in developing, underdeveloped countries is a challenge, and power is one of them. So I think the demand exceeds the production in the country. So when the demands exceed the production of the country, so the demand is then generated via smaller generators which are put in every household. So you will not find a single house which is without a generator here.
Wow. Okay.
So the first few nights I could not sleep because the generator sound was there.
Cool.
In the house where I shifted.
Noise, yeah.
Yes, so there is a background noise. So once you get adjusted to it, it's fine. But this is how it is. And similarly, so there are restaurants not only for us but for all the brands put together, which works on generator, and then generator itself is around 12 to 15 hours kind of power. There are stores which would be working probably with only 2-3 hours of power. So imagine you're purely running your store on a generator, and generator would be running for good 12 to 15 hours.
Nice.
And now to ensure that the cost of delivery of diesel to that store is not high. So imagine a 90 kVA or a 150 kVA generator takes around 20-25 liters in an hour, right? If it is on a decent load. Now the generator comes with a tank which is around only 250 liters. So that means that's good enough for 10 hours. Yeah. And we have not looked at the dead capacity. Now if you look at the dead capacity, so that comes to only 60.
It's incredible. And look, I think, I don't think anybody has that idea that, they've got this franchise brand and they know all of the values of the brand and they've got all of the menus developed, right? But to just power something to cook that brand or to put your lights on, it's a really important thing to understand. Look, I've already realized today that we are going to have to do a franchising in Nigeria part 2. So I'm actually going to ask you, Satender, will you come back for a part 2 at some point in the future?
Harvey, it's always great talking to you. I think the audience has been lovely.
Amazing.
I would love to come back anytime you want me to.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Because look, I don't think we would get round to Nigerian brands coming out of Nigeria and but look, that is going to be part 2. So we're going to have a Nigeria part 2 on this one. But look, let's as we've now got a couple more minutes, because we're not going to get on to that part of it. Let's have a little look at Ravi's comment here. So cost of goods, right? You've spoken there about power, generators. So diesel, is it diesel generators? I assume, are they diesel generators?
So mostly, Harvey, it was diesel generators.
Sure.
And 2 years back, with the major reform in the economy, the prices of the diesel, fuel, etc., almost went up by 4x. 4x.
Wow.
4x. Yeah. So when the power goes up 4x, what happens? People need to adjust. See, the country when I said it is aspiring, the minimum wages doubled, the fuel went up by 4 times, right? So the country adjusted. So the adaptability, the resilience, and the agility of the country is at a very different level. I can assure that these kind of things, if they happen in other countries, there are a lot of protest, etc., which happens. But in this country, I think the people adjust to that, and I think that's one thing which I have taken uh, from this country. These three things I think is beautiful. And when we were talking about this particular part, that when the cost of diesel goes up, how do we do? So we realized that we were open. Lot of our brands, our partners, um, our fellow restaurant owners, we realized that we were on ahead of the capacity. So what we did differently was we started putting IoT devices to evaluate that what is our load capacity and peak loads. And we realized that our loads were heavy. We needed only 50, 60 kVA generators
Mm.
while we were running with 150 kVA generators. Quickly resizing them is a good option for people who would want to do that. Today, there are a lot of IoT devices available in the market which can help us to do that, and that helped.
I think
Gas
I think
gas
it's
generator. The
yeah.
second part, sorry, Harvey. The second part is I think a lot of people are now getting into the LPG and CNG
Mm.
generators. So these 2 years, 2.5 years back when I came in, we were looking out for solutions. We didn't see much in the market, but now we see that people are with the LPG generators coming in, which will definitely help the brands to reduce their cost as well as at the same time, because LPG is still produced locally, so it's not as expensive as diesel. Yeah.
Look, I think it's really interesting, and look, I think we've begun to start to answer that. You know, there's obviously price sensitivity. You're looking at trying to do some sort of food for less than $1. You know, we know that people that work there are earning $50 per month, so there is price sensitivity. Costs of goods definitely involve a large part of power in that. But look, this is fascinating. It's really important. It's a very exciting region, really, really interesting. Ravi, look, I really appreciate you getting involved today. It'd be great to have you on these in the future. But we have come to the end of today's. The first part, at least, of today's show. As I say, I could continue talking with Satender and our fantastic audience all evening, but I'm not sure if my wife would appreciate that. So we are going to come to the last part of today's show. It means that my camera is going to go off just for a moment. It's not because I've broken something, although I often do. It's because you're not allowed to see me without wearing a hat. Now look at this beauty. And this hat is, of course, brought to you by my lovely friend Paul Murphy at PJ Murphy and Sons Bespoke British Hatters. So if you'd like a hat like this beauty, then speak to my lovely friend Paul. Now, this is also the part of the show where we stop talking about franchising for a little bit and we find out a little bit about Satender. Also, it's his opportunity to get his own back on me because he's been answering all these questions beautifully that you've all been throwing at him. So he can ask me something. So first of all, look, let me ask you this, and it's just a bit of fun really, but can you tell us something we don't know about you, something about your, maybe an unusual hobby, or have you met anybody famous, or do you have a claim to fame, anything like that? Let us know.
What do you know about me? I think a lot of people not know that I'm a runner, cyclist.
Okay.
So I've the longest I've done is 400 kilometers of cycling in under 24 hours.
Wow, blimey, you're
Right.
whizzing along.
Yeah. Yeah. So and then I also paint. So
Oh,
I've done 2 exhibitions. I'm a COVID painter. Yeah.
a few COVID painters, absolutely.
Yes.
I'm a bit of a
Yes.
COVID
Yes.
painter myself.
Yeah.
Fantastic, love it. And look, Ravi, you're putting up some fantastic questions. I really wish we could continue. What I promise we're going to do, Ravi, is we are going to take these questions and we are going to put them into part 2 of franchising in Nigeria. But look, I also said to you, Satender, that you could get your own back on me. So now is your chance to ask me anything you like. Now, you can let me get away with this if you wish. You don't have to ask me anything at all, but you can. Now's the time.
Harvey, it's always exciting. What inspired you to do this show? You know,
Okay, I think it's a great question. I think two things inspired me. One, I always have to name drop Donald Cohen. He was definitely an inspiration to do this show. He did a show in America. I commented on it. He put my comment up. He talked about it. It drove his show. It wasn't to do with franchising, it was to do with mindset. But I felt part of that show. It made me feel good, made me feel part of a community. And I think I wanted to make that same community. And it's why it's so important. I've always said this, that the most important people in this are the community, the audience, the people that are commenting, the people who are driving these conversations. The second most important person on this show is you, it's the guest. And the third most important is me, right? I'm just sitting here enjoying all of this, right? And so that was absolutely an inspiration to do it. Also, I think the franchising community is such a unusually collaborative community. You know, they like to work together and share these things. And there's lots of podcasts out there, but there was never, I couldn't see anything that brought an audience in this way, that people stop talking to each other like we're doing to bring a comment in from the audience, because that is what's important. So I think that's what inspired me to do it, to build this community, and it's the community that always makes this special. So that brings me as a beautiful segue actually to thank everybody that has been with us live today. You really are what makes this special. Your comments, your enthusiasm to get involved is what makes this different. And so a big thank you goes out to everyone who's watched it live, everybody who watches this in the future. And I'd also like to thank Satender for taking his time out today to be with us. You've been an absolute superb guest. So thanks, Satender.
thank you everyone for your time. I hope you picked up something from it. And Harvey, as he said, that the part 2 is coming soon.
Definitely. Absolutely. So it just now leaves me to let you know what's happening next week, if I can remember what's happening next week. So next week on the Franchise Show, actually, yes, we're going to be talking to Brittany from Impact Digital Marketing. We're also going to have Brandon from Hangry Joe's, which is a fantastic US franchise brand. He was a franchisee and now acting CMO. So he's now the Chief Marketing Officer. And we're just going to see what that journey looked like from becoming a franchisee to then being a marketing specialist within the brand. So it's going to be fantastic. Please join us next Tuesday, the 23rd of June, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. And until next time, my lovely friends, take very good